In this video, we're going to break down the exact shoulder flexibility exercises that you need to improve range of motion and mobility. We're going to share some soft tissue stuff, some stretching stuff, and some things I really think people are missing from the research that shows is super helpful. But before we dive into the video, a couple things we have to do. One is many people who have been watching for the last month know that we've been doing a giveaway, and today we are going to announce that winner. So congratulations to Access Gymnastics Academy. You have won a free set of SHIFT Symposium tickets for the 2023 SHIFT Symposium. You're going to get the full 3-day pass, right? So I'll drop in the comments down below. I'll make sure we find you, but thank you so much for following along in the videos, commenting hashtag SHIFT24 in the first 24 hours. It was in a random generator and you were picked. So congratulations. And yes, people that are asking, we are going to do another one. So if you are watching right now, hop down in the comments, hashtag 24SHIFT. We will start a new one. All the old entries will be kind of tossed out. So we have a fresh start for everybody. But the first 24 hours, if you comment, you will be automatically entered in to win a set of symposium tickets. And there's going to be a bonus with this one. Not only will you get tickets to the symposium, we're going to throw in an extra gift for somebody else who wins. I will not share the secrets of that until a little later. But for now, if you are here in the first time and you haven't been back in a while, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, because these things are very popular. People are really enjoying the videos, and we're going to dive in right now. All right, so the first thing we have to do here is really make sure that we're doing the basics really well. Okay, so for basic shoulder soft tissue, the thing we're going to have to start with is just some really good soft tissue work for foam rolling the lat and the teres major. Okay, this is by far and away one of the biggest limiters people have. Is the lat and the teres major are very strong muscles that pull the arms close. Okay, they often are something that a lot of gymnasts have a lot of overworked with. So if you're lifting, if you're doing gymnastics, if you're doing circus, if you're doing all sorts of different things, these muscles can get extremely stiff and extremely tight, and it can cause you to not be able to get your arms over your head. So pretty much everyone that I work for, when I screen them, we see that they have some issues in these two departments. So the way we can kind of do this is with a lacrosse ball or with a foam roller, just 30 to 60 seconds on each side, 5 to 6 days per week, right? We really know from the research that in order to see improvements, we have to do these things consistently, right? So whether it's soft tissue work, whether it's stretching, we have to do these things every single day, maybe 6 times a week. But I really think someone should take it and put it into the routine every single day. And I just want to say the common errors I see all the time. Number one, they go way too hard, right? The research is pretty clear. You do not need to absolutely kill yourself on a foam roller for it to work, right? A moderate amount of pressure, a moderate amount of work is going to be just okay if you do it consistently every day. So that's number one. Number two is they actually go more so on the scapula, the shoulder blade. They don't actually go on the soft tissue. So make sure it's on the outside of your arm. Make sure you're really just focusing on the soft tissue of your lat and stuff next to your shoulder. Don't go super hard on your shoulder blade, and also don't go super hard on maybe your spine if you're doing some of the upper back as well. So this is a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, can easily go against the wall and just do it down here on the side. You can do it on the ground too as well, but again, that pressure is sometimes a little bit too much. And again, the last error we see with this one, it's just inconsistent. They do it kind of one day per week, kind of over here, kind of when they have time, but you really want to make this a daily thing you do every single day. All right, and then moving on to number two is actually going to be the upper back or the thoracic spine. Okay, many people are missing out on the fact that in order for us to have really good shoulder mobility to get our arms over our head, the upper back has to extend and rotate, which lets the shoulder blades move, which lets the arms go fully overhead. So I've seen a lot of people who are stretching their shoulders like crazy every single day, but they don't actually realize they have a stiff upper back. So in order to make sure that you can get your arms over your head, we want that back to extend and rotate. And these are really, really easy to do, right? Many people sometimes do them over a foam roller. They will do like a windmill, they'll do some sort of a back bend over a foam roller. They're all really good. I just find that this one gets a lot of bang for your buck. And then as you can see here, her hips are rocked back to her heels. So it's really just isolating the upper back and nothing else. So a couple sets of 10 are really good, nice and slow. Again, 5 to 6 days per week. And the first error we'll see is that when someone does this, their heels are lifted away from their hips. And so they're actually twisting from their hips and their lower back. So make sure you fully sit down your hips to your heels. You can put a pad underneath your ankles if it feels a little sore on the front of your ankles. You can also put a pad behind your knees if you feel as though you can't bend all the way down. It's sore on the knees a little bit, but you want to get as far back as you possibly can. We call this a lumbar locked position. And essentially what that just means is we're trying to limit the amount of motion coming from our lower back so we can maximize the motion from our upper back, okay? Second thing we see as an error here is someone's just going way too fast. You can notice that Hannah's kind of slowly going all the way through, and she's pausing at the top there to really look through her eyes and look at her elbow, which leads to the third problem is that people don't breathe, right? The biggest thing we're doing with thoracic mobility is we're actually trying to get the lungs to move at end range, because that inside pressure of the lungs in and out expands the ribs, expands the upper back, and it helps to actually mobilize at end range. So anytime you do thoracic mobility work, at the very end rotation or the end of arching over a roller, try to make sure you're taking a really nice deep inhale and a nice exhale, because that will further add to the kind of mobility work you're doing. All right, and then number 3 with this one, this is actually for the pec minor more so, and also for male gymnasts who are doing things that involve extending their upper back and arms across for like pommel horse or parallel bars. So these are tabletop extensions, and the reason I really like these for everybody though is because it really mobilizes the pec minor and the pec major. So when you have the pec minor and pec major being stiff, what happens sometimes is we can't open the chest up fully and we can't get the shoulder blades to move backwards. And that again can limit the upper body, that mobility that we have, because if the shoulder blades can't tip backwards, right, there's not going to be the ability to go all the way up into what's called upward rotation. Okay, so if the pec minor is stiff, the pec major is somewhat involved, but more so the minor, the shoulder blades may tip forward and then kind of internally rotate. They might not be able to get all the way backwards. So doing tabletop extensions or even just doing hands behind your back squeezes are a very good way to kind of mobilize some of that soft tissue, along with doing some foam rolling or stretching or things like that. Okay, so I really love these tabletop extensions because they're super simple to do. They're very easy to find space for, and I think just a couple sets of 10 is really, really easy for most people to do. Okay, couple seconds up and down, nothing too crazy. The things that I see that are sometimes problematic is that we're going a partial range of motion. Okay, so maybe we're not opening our hips up all the way fully. Maybe we're not getting that full extension of our head, as you can see she's laying back right there. Okay, 2 is that the hands are too close. If somebody has some wrist flexibility issues, which is the 3rd error, and their hands are close and their hands are not turned in the proper sideways direction to limit that, they actually might not be getting a full stretch from their shoulders. It might just be the fact that the wrists are not letting them go all the way up. So you can do what Heather's doing here if you have full wrist flexibility. If not, you can turn your hands and go a little wider. You could also go on parallettes or dumbbells to make sure that your wrists are not any of the limiting factors here. All right, and then number 2 here, going down to our countdown list, this is by far my all-time favorite stretch. This is a PVC stick stretch. And when I say that this is probably the most effective to stretch the lats and the teres major, I really, really mean it, okay? The reason is because most people, when they do stretches, whether it's with bands, whether it's with a partner, whether it's with their another hands over head stretch, right? Oftentimes they don't realize that the capsular tissue or the ligaments of their shoulder are the things that are being biased in those stretches. Of course, it's still stretching the soft tissue, but if you internally rotate your hands and you put your hands over your head in a close grip position, we might actually be stretching the joint capsules more than the actual soft tissue. Okay, and like I said in the beginning, the lat muscles, the teres muscles, the pec muscles, they mainly do close and in, right? So adduction and internal rotation. So to stretch that in the opposite way for the lat and the teres, we actually want to go external rotation and elevation together. And that's what this stick stretch does. So when we make sure that we're doing this, we want to make the upper back round. We want to keep the elbows nice and close and the hands wide. And what that does is you can see that it puts her in more of that externally rotated position. If the hands are close together or the elbows are super wide, it's not going to really put all the stretch on the lats and the teres major, okay? If you do this stretch and you feel some pinching on the top of your shoulders, I would back off a little bit because maybe it's too aggressive. But for most people, they see a great stretch here in the upper back, and it really helps out quite a bit with that soft tissue flexibility, okay? So we're going to intentionally keep the upper back round because we worked thoracic spine on something else. By rounding the thoracic spine and doing the hands wide, the elbows close, and really rounding up and in, we're going to get more of that lat here. That's what we want, okay? So 60 seconds rocking back and forth is really, really helpful. The errors, as I just talked about, are that the hands are too close, the upper back might be arched, okay, or we're letting our head drop way too far forward and we're not getting the stretch. So if you're looking for something that's easy to do and is super effective, that by far is the best one to do. I do it every day in my warm-up. I find it super, super helpful. And then last but not least, as I talked about, the research shows us that maybe some eccentric loading to some of these muscles will help to increase range of motion over time. So I love doing some eccentric chin-up lowers here. So having someone jump up and do a 5-second lower with a 5-second bottom hold in a nice round position. The thought process being is that the weight of gravity in our body is going to help us to get the lats and the teres major to stretch out a little bit more than if we were just to do some stretching on our own. Okay, most stretching, soft tissue work, whatever you're doing, foam rolling, is not truly making a change in the length of muscles over time. It's probably desensitizing those muscles, and it's probably increasing some blood flow, and it does help to increase range of motion temporarily, but it's not a permanent solution. Okay, so doing things like strength and conditioning and doing proper eccentric loading and using a full range of motion when you work out, that is how we're going to increase some of our actual flexibility. So these eccentric chin-up lowers are fantastic for this. I do them all the time with people, and I often find myself finding it super useful for my own training as well. Common errors we're going to see here is, of course, someone is just going way too fast. They jump up and they plop down, right? We want a slow 5-second lower, and then to the second error is we want a nice long 5-second hold at the end to really get that bottom elongation of the fibers, okay? The third thing we see as an error sometimes is that somebody is arching their back. Okay, the lats particularly go down to the thoracolumbar fascia in our lower back. When we arch our back, we might slack the lats a little bit, which again is why we rounded our back in the last exercise. But we want to make sure someone's not rib flaring. We want to make sure that someone is not doing too much of an arch because we're trying to put as much tension through the lats as possible. So really encourage someone to tuck their knees up and really hollow and round in, and then hold all the way to the bottom. So lower all the way down and then jump back up. So I hope those are helpful. I find myself doing them all the time. If you want to learn more about what we're doing with gymnastics, we have a phenomenal symposium coming up. The 2023 SHIFT Symposium is going to be 3 days of excellent speakers and excellent content from gymnastics medical care to gymnastics coaching. We're going to talk all about flexibility and skills and drills and progressions and ideas. And then on the strength and conditioning day, we're going to also talk about these things too with strength and power and speed and agility work. So if you want to jump onto the SHIFT Symposium and learn all of the things that we have from 30 speakers, make sure you hit this link below or drop down in the comments and you can see the actual links in the bio. If you just enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you just kind of drop a comment below and let us know, what do you like? What do you want to learn about? What else do you want to hear from? We're doing a lot of these videos coming out in the next few months to help people because they're getting very, very popular, but we want to hear community feedback. So if you drop down in the comments below, first, make sure you put #24shift because you might be entered to win at the end of the month a set of symposium tickets and also a bonus we're going to do, which might have something to do with a free course giveaway from SHIFT. Just saying, it might be that. But also just make sure you like and subscribe the channel and kind of get those notification bells on because every time a new video comes out, you want to make sure you jump in and you drop the comments down. More times inside the comment section, more chances to win. So thanks for listening.